Welcome back to Base is Beautiful. My name is MD. If you grew up in the 1990s and you paid attention at all to baseball, you couldn't help but care about this gentleman right here, Mr. Bobby Cox. And as you know, he recently passed away just about a week or maybe 2 weeks ago on May 9th, 2026. He was 84 years old, and I just wanted to pay a little bit of a tribute to him because I grew up in the 90s as a Braves fan watching TBS. Of course, we've recently lost Ted Turner as well, who's the owner of not only TBS, but also the Braves. So there was a major synergy happening there in the 90s, which led to the Braves becoming probably a lot more mainstreamed than they might have been if they were just an Atlanta-based baseball team with local, regional coverage of their sport. But if you grew up in that time, of course, it was a great time to be not only a Braves fan, but just a baseball fan probably in general too, because that Atlanta team was absolutely stacked. And I mean, Bobby Cox apparently was a major part of that. I mean, I was learning that in 1986, he was brought in as the general manager of the Braves and ended up making himself the on-field manager in, I believe it was the 1990 season. But he was responsible for drafting a lot of the guys that became that awesome core of players during that 90s run. And I don't know, like, just look at this. You know, as a kid growing up in the 90s, I don't know if there was any better personification of what a baseball manager, coach, sitting in the dugout, what that would look like than this guy. I mean, just the face, kind of the swagger, just his gaze watching the game, of course, his legendary battles with umpires. I learned recently in looking up just a little bit about him that he actually has the all-time record for most ejections in a game, in his career as a manager, 162 ejections. Like, that may be one of the unspoken, unbeatable records, especially now with the ABS challenge system that tends to, I think, diminish the amount of encounters that managers are having with umpires. But I mean, you think of like current day managers who might even be in that conversation, like Terry Francona, who has 54. I know he got fired, but I mean, he could land somewhere else. I don't think he has a next job yet. Aaron Boone has 48. Don Mattingly has 38, and Craig Counsell has 34. So these are currently active managers who are a long way off from getting to a legendary 162 ejections. And I forget which Hall of Famer Bobby Cox passed over to get to that 162 all-time record for ejections. Yeah, it's slipping my mind which manager it is. If you know, mention it in the comments or something. But I think he ended up beating that guy who set that record in like the 1930s too, by the way. Like, so that record had stood for a really long time until Bobby Cox came along in the 80s and 90s and 2000s and was just like, I'm getting ejected a lot. Like 162, like that's how many games are in a season, right? Or is it maybe 182? Yeah, I'm getting myself confused now. Anyway, Bobby Cox, just a legendary guy. And I just felt like, let me pull this out of its little sleeve there, because these aren't great sleeves, but this is a Bobby Cox card I wanted to show off. It's got his autograph on there. And so this was from his first stint with the Braves, which, if you know anything about Bobby Cox, you know that he played for the New York Yankees in 1968 to 69 in, I guess, only those 2 seasons. And then he ended up as a first base coach in the 70s with the Yankees under Billy Martin. And then in 78, he got a job with actually as a manager because, well, I guess before that, in 74 to 77, he had been a manager of a team in Venezuela and during the winter leagues, then did the Yankees first base coach, and then Atlanta in 78 to 81. So this being his 81 card, he was actually fired after the season from Atlanta. Although interestingly, Ted Turner said that the kind of guy that he wanted to coach the team, he had just fired in Bobby Cox. So I don't know all the details of what led to that initial firing, but Ted Turner obviously respected Bobby Cox, liked his approach to the game, liked how he thought about things, liked his presence, but I guess maybe just a bad run of teams there ended up to a breaking of that relationship. And so then he went to Toronto in 82 to 85. And then I mentioned in 86, he came on as a GM for the Atlanta Braves and then took over as an on-field manager before Nate Shearholtz took over the GM role in 1990, and Bobby Cox switched to then become the on-field manager. So kind of an interesting trajectory there, too. But of course, he won Manager of the Year, 85, 91, 2004, and 2005. 14 consecutive division championship wins. And he's credited as the one who moved Dale Murphy to the outfield. And so it's just, I always liked his presence, partially just to get into a little bit of my own story. I always liked his presence because he reminded me of my granddad. And this is Harold Franklin Smith. We just called him Daddy Frank. And he's was born in 1930 in Mississippi, or maybe slightly over the edge in Alabama, I'm not sure. But he lived most of his life here in the central middle part of the state of Mississippi. Lived in Columbus, and on February 17th, 2018, he passed away, but not before my sister was able to take this awesome portrait of him in a rocking chair in my parents' yard. You just see, you can kind of see where some similarities of just look and appearance, kind of an old Southern guy, confident in his opinions, very opinionated, very willing to share that, even to the chagrin of some of those around him, just because he didn't mind speaking out. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to pay a little tribute to Bobby Cox, mention my granddad, who was a big baseball fan too, by the way. It's just, he loved the Mississippi State Bulldogs, the college team. Him and his wife had season tickets. They'd go down there. They saw in the 80s that era of Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark, Bobby Thigpen, and they had signed autographed baseballs of each of those guys in their dining room. And I just always remember baseball being on, baseball being talked about. And even though he liked the Braves as a professional team, but you could tell, they really liked college sports and college baseball in particular. They would drive up in their RV to Omaha to watch the College World Series. Many years they did that, and then Team America, Team USA baseball, when that was happening in Millington, Tennessee, they went up there multiple years, and they ended up taking me a couple of those years too. And I have good memories of that with them, right outside Memphis and Millington. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to spend a little time with me, and remember the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Cox, and just honor my granddad a little bit. So thanks for taking some time to watch. We'll see you next time.